Hello A-level English language and literature students, and welcome to another exciting video focused on a Paris text in roughly a little bit more minutes. This text is the 15th text anthology, and it is called Just Another in Paris. To summarise this text, Anne, in her blog, has relocated to Paris for her husband's career, and she is a mother of two who has decided to blog about this life blog entry. Well, actually, in the last blog entry, for reasons we'll discuss in a moment, Encore une fois, she describes bringing the family back to visit friends and soak up the atmosphere and enjoy some fine dining. In 18 months later, which actually happens earlier, Anne describes bringing the family back to Paris to visit friends, soak up the atmosphere and enjoy fine dining. And the final blog, in 10 Things My Kids Say They Will Miss About, Anne lists all the things her children will miss about, which includes their friends, the atmosphere and the fine dining. This is a written and planned text, and in terms of genre, it's a self-published blog. It's also a recount, recalling personal events, and it's similar, I suppose, to a personal journal or a diary in the way that it lists and chronicles events that happen to an individual. In terms of the purpose, I did think long and hard about this, and I can't really find a purpose to this text other than self-promotion and promoting your own lifestyle. There are obviously representations of Paris in it, but it doesn't say anything particularly new about Paris. It doesn't take on any other interesting subjects other really than the lifestyle of the author. It has an audience of 248 followers who followed this blog, and they are mostly, I could see from looking at their profiles, expatriates in Paris. There's some fine dining lovers in there and certain lifestyle trend-setting types. The subjects of this text are lifestyle, dining, culture and family. In terms of representations, Anne evokes some sensory experiences of Paris, which are actually quite evocative through her descriptive language. She reflects on her own Paris experience, and these descriptions have a slightly romantic nostalgia for the city. She's actually lived in the city for a number of years and is leaving it, but actually then going back to look at the city, and she clearly feels a strong attachment to it. Parisian food culture is obviously a significant representation in the text, and something that clearly Anne and her family indulged in and enjoyed a lot whilst they were there. And the text looks at a combination of unique foodstuffs, and there are many mentions of some of Paris's great and famous restaurants. There's also a repetitive focus on family and friends, but in keeping with the nature of the blog, these are mostly anonymized, and we don't know more about the author than her name and a few slightly vague details about her professional status. The text includes a short testimonial, promotional, almost advert if you like, for a company that rent luxury apartments in Paris, presumably as a way of thanks because they cut her a good deal, and who knows, maybe she used her blog as a kind of a bargaining tool to say, well, I'll give you a plug if you lower the rent for me. So it could be part of a little deal there, but it certainly is a strikingly different register in terms of she indulges in a little sales plug. The primary representation, though, is of Parisian lifestyle, and in particular the kind of Parisian expat lifestyle that you can live in Paris if you've got a lot of money and a lot of free time. With regards to the linguistic features of this text then, in pragmatics there's quite a bit of self-deprecating language, which is an attempt on the behalf of the producer to lower her status so as not to seem too boastful. She is, after all, just another American in Paris. These are only her stray thoughts, and these are examples of language that really are an attempt to downplay the significance of the content, a way of saying that the family is typical, which it is described as, I think, in the biography, and that they are just one of the 50,000 Americans in Paris. She obviously doesn't want to be seen to be boasting about her lifestyle and status. So while she is boasting about her lifestyle and status, she uses these self-deprecating features in order to, I guess, trick us. The humble brag is an interesting concept and one that you might look into a little further. With regards to lexis, there is a proliferation of proper nouns in the text. Many proper nouns conveying places, but also connections to social status and sophistication of the producer here. We have products that are dropped in, such as iPhone or Fitbit and Haven in Paris, the little promotion. Always mention your brand names, people. Cultural references such as Frank Gehry's Foundation and Le Musée des Arts Forains. The mentions of restaurants, Verjus, L'Entrecôte and Abri. So basically name dropping, all the big names, all the big proper nouns are in there. There's also a combination of colloquial and more formal lexis, and this is quite interesting because Anne is obviously a very competent language user, obviously a very highly educated individual from the upper middle classes, and a combination of more down-to-earth idioms such as ditch the old jobs and hanging out, and perhaps some of those more formal terms such as taciturn and albeit. There are a couple of literary references in the text as well that show that clearly the author is a very well educated and intelligent individual. There's also a lot of descriptive language, mostly where there are lists, listing constructions with pre-modifying adjectives that give you a kind of a quick sensory immersion in Paris. There are some cliched figurative language in there, such as letting Paris wash over you, or describing, I believe, the Eiffel Tower as pure magic. But then there's also similar descriptive use of language in that little sales plug, but that tends to go more towards hyperbole, which is somewhat empty language, such as 1,000 thanks or a steal. Again, a couple of dead metaphors, or a dead metaphor there, and a cliche that add to this hyperbole that help her to sell the Haven accommodation company. Finally then, grammar, as I said, she does a lot of listing in her description, a lot of sensory lists, and these are used to describe the sights, sounds and smells of the city, and she has her own little style there in listing the senses. The tense is mostly past tense, but the future tense is used at different points in the text to explore how the children will one day remember their experience. It's worth pointing out, if I haven't already, with regards to the discourse structure, the blog moves back in time, and so as you read the text in order, they go back from the present to the past. So there's a kind of reverse chronological order to these texts. So finally then, in terms of connections, this text would connect interestingly with other texts that explore the expatriate experience, particularly expatriate experiences of lifestyle. Breathless is a great example of an American coming to Paris and being overawed by its sophistication. Foreign Correspondent is a little bit more down to earth, and Lennon obviously lives life, I guess, at the bottom, whereas in Just Another American, our friend Anne is living life at the top. There are many representations of food, and there are countless connections to food in the Paris Anthology that would make a sensible comparison. But also a text like French Milk is a radically different mode, but shares this diaristic format, the focus on food, lifestyle and family, many similarities in terms of representations in French Milk and Just Another American, but a really strikingly different mode and a lot of strikingly different linguistic features. So if I was going to write an essay about Just Another American, French Milk would be my chosen comparison. Right, in summary, that was Just Another American in Paris in probably way over 5 minutes. But thank you again for your attention. I hope this has been useful to you. Please click like if this was useful to you. You can ask a question in the comments or subscribe so that you keep up to date with any more videos that come your way. And finally, good luck with your studies.